UNP trade union meeting comes to an abrupt end. National Election Commission meets to discuss matters related to the general election today. Island-wide protests by farmers requesting fertilizer.
A very good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1 for the Newsfirst team. I'm Martin Satyanesan, starting off with a look at your lead story for this afternoon. A membership meeting of United National Party trade unions, including the Jatika Sevaka Sangamaya, came to an abrupt end following objections and protests by members. The meeting was held at the UNP headquarters, Sirikota, this morning. The meeting was chaired by UNP leader Ranil Wickramasinghe, UNP General Secretary Akhila Viraj Karyavasam and several other heads of the Jatika Sevaka Sangamaya. In a COVID update for this afternoon, the number of COVID-19 cases in the island has increased to 1,835. 21 cases were identified yesterday.
A returnee from Bangladesh, 16 people who had arrived in the island from Kuwait, 2 people from Qatar and 2 others who had arrived from London were identified to have infected with the virus. 883 patients are currently receiving treatment at the hospital. 50 patients have recovered thus far and discharged from the hospitals yesterday. The total number of recoveries in the island stands at 941.
Interprovincial bus services across all districts, including Colombo and Gampaha, commenced today.
Public transport services resumed in Colombo district after 75 days. Many modes of public transport services, including interprovincial bus service and trains, recommenced operations normally. Minister of Transport Services Management Mahinda Maravira said transport services resumed following the instructions of health authorities. Accordingly, only buses and trains are provided approval to transport passengers. The minister added the discussions will be held to ascertain any losses incurred by the private bus owners. The priority bus lane rule will also be in effect in the Western Province from today. Senior police officer Indika Hapugura said measures are taken to create awareness among the drivers till the 22nd of this month. The priority bus lane rule was implemented at the cross junction in Moratua this morning. Our correspondent said all vehicles travelling from Moratua to Colombo travelled by adhering to the rules. The program is currently implemented by the Mount Lavinia Police. Our correspondent said a camera system is also fixed to inspect the efficiency of the priority lane rule in the area. The bus services from Mathura to its surroundings took place as usual. Accordingly, the transport services will operate from Mathura to Makumbra, Panadura, Kadavata and Kaduala. In addition to this, bus services were operated in regular roads. Railway services also resumed today. A train set to Colombo from Kandy at 4:30 a.m. today. Our correspondent said the train services were operated by following the health guidelines issued. However, our correspondent said the trains arrived in Mahava, Rambukana and Kurunagala transported more passengers than the stipulated seats. The bus services in Kurunagala district also commenced as usual today. Bus services from Kandy to Colombo also commenced today. Bus services covering all the districts commenced from Anuradhapura today. SLTB and private buses have added to operations today. Our correspondent said low number of passengers were reported today.
In more local news, the National Elections Commission is to convene today with the attendance of the chairman of the NEC, Mahinda Deshapriya.
The meeting would be centered around discussing matters relevant to the impending general election. Meanwhile, the printing of the ballot papers for the general election has begun. The government printer Ganga Kalpani Lianage said printing ballot papers for 7 districts have commenced. She stressed while printing ballot papers relating to other districts will commence in the future, the progress of printing ballot papers will be at a slower pace than usual given the current situation in the country. The government printer Ganga Kalpani Lianage said 16.9 million ballot papers will be printed for the upcoming general election. The printed ballot papers are expected to be handed over to the National Elections Commission 14 days before the day of the election.
Although a fresh date for the upcoming general election is yet to be announced, the political discourse is already heating up. Here are some of the views expressed.
Following
this election, we hope to develop the country after concluding the election successfully with a 2/3 majority. Keep the 2/3 majority aside and show the 1/3 power first. Don't think that you will get votes easily. Even though they live in a fantasy world, they will not get fantasy election results. This general election will not be a challenging one for us. We believe that the people of this country do not have barriers when it comes to establishing a high standard of socio-economic stability and prosperity.
A look back at your local news. This afternoon, several protests were staged island-wide today over the shortage of fertilizer in the country.
A protest was carried out in Dambulla requesting a solution to the shortage of fertilizer. The farmers claim that they are facing difficulties since they are unable to obtain the sufficient fertilizer for their crops. A group of farmers staged a protest near the clock tower in Ampara today. The farmers staged the protests over the fertilizer issue and demanded compensation for the crops that were damaged by the Sena caterpillar, also known as the fall army worm. Another protest was held opposite the Agrarian Service Centre in Galgamur today.
The postal workers are engaging in a token strike today.
The postal trade union said the token strike is staged due to the extra work that the existing employees needs to carry out due to the lack of staff and discontinuation of overtime payments. Accordingly, the office hours of the employees will be limited to 8 hours. The strike is currently implemented across 653 post offices island-wide.
The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said the water supply to several areas, including Aturugiriya, will be suspended for 24 hours tomorrow. Accordingly, water supply will be suspended in Aturugiriya, Millennium City, Oruvala and surrounding areas from 8 a.m. tomorrow till 8 a.m. on Wednesday. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said the water cut is due to an essential repair activity of the Ceylon Electricity Board. Moving on to the weather-related news, the Department of Meteorology has warned the fishing community not to engage in fishing in the deep sea of the eastern side of the island.
Met Department Director General Athula Karnanaik has said the wind speed could increase from 70 to 80 kilometers per hour around the sea areas. Fishmongers refrained from going to the seas of Rathgama, Gaul and Devata. According to our correspondent, close to 100 one-day fishing vessels set sail. Two people were hospitalized after a tree had fallen on top of a house in the Ambagasyaya area in Yatiantota. A house in Thambegama in Dehiovita Divisional Secretariat was also damaged by a tree. Meanwhile, the southwest monsoon has been established across the island and the prevailing rainy weather in the southwestern parts of the island is expected to continue over the next few days. Showers of thunder showers will occur at times in the western, northwestern, Sabragamur and central provinces and in the Gaul and Mathura districts.
In another most talked about story, the Mount Lavinia beach continues to get eroded.
The sand nourishment project along the Colombo south coast was implemented recently at a cost of 889 million rupees. Under this project, sand was filled in the Mount Lavinia beach in a bid to nourish the coastal line in Vellavatta. However, due to the increasing sand erosion at the Mount Lavinia beach, authorities continue to blame one another on the matter.
The beach was filled with sand and washed away because the sand belongs to the sea. The beautiful beaches are completely ruined. Today marks World Oceans Day, and the theme for this year is Innovation for a Sustainable Ocean.
June 8th is celebrated as World Oceans Day to remind everyone about the importance of the ocean's role in our everyday life. The United Nations Day celebrates the role of the oceans in everyday life and inspires action to protect the ocean and sustainably use marine resources. This day holds great significance as we discuss various methods to save oceans for our future generation.
The COVID-19 pandemic is a sharp reminder of how we are all intimately connected to each other and to nature. As we work to end the pandemic and build back better, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity and responsibility to correct our relationship with the natural world, including the world's seas and oceans. We rely on the oceans for food, livelihoods, transport and trade.
From that, we bring to a close this edition of Lunchtime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Martin Satyanesan. You have yourself a wonderful day.